ang mandato ng komiting ito ay simple, ngunit mabigat. Tiyakin na ang bawat impeachment complaint na dinala sa kapulungan ay pumasa sa pamantayan ng batas. Kaya ang panawagan ko sa bawat miyembro ay pairali natin ang parehong antas ng pagsusuri na inaasahan sa anumang legal proceedings. Maingat, patas at walang kinikilingan. Ang tanong sa harap natin ngayon ay hindi kung political controversy, kundi kung ang complaint ba ay naglalaman ng ultimate facts.
Our focus is to determine whether the third and fourth impeachment complaints are sufficient in substance. Now more than ever, we must recognize the gravity of our duty. We are tasked not just with reviewing paperwork, but with making sure that the Constitution is duly followed. If the allegations are worthy of consideration, it is our responsibility to proceed to the next step in holding the highest officials of the land accountable for their actions. Kaya't magpatuloy tayo ng maingat at may integridad. Let us proceed constitutionally, upholding the process set forth by our fundamental law. Let us act with the integrity demanded by our oath of office and with the transparency expected by the Filipino people. Muli, itutuloy na natin ang pagdinig para sa prosesong ito. Ang saligang batas ang ating kumpas, ang katotohanan ang ating landas. Maraming salamat po. Now we proceed to the determination of sufficiency in substance of the two remaining complaints, the third and the fourth. We will begin with the third impeachment complaint, otherwise referred to as Father Sabalia et al. Impeachment complaint. At this juncture, we recognize the endorser, the Honorable De Lima, to make her manifestation as to the sufficiency in substance of the third impeachment complaint.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But before I do that, Madam Chair, can I just clarify? Would the presentation be on the whole complaint already, or should it be for each of the grounds? Because 6 specific grounds were alleged in the third or Sabalia et al. Complaint. Just a clarification.
For purposes of the manifestation, it should be on the entirety of the impeachment complaint, and then it will be followed by our deliberation per ground, where the endorser will be allowed, should she wishes to engage or respond to the comments and observations of the justice members.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a brief intro, because I'll be making a presentation actually for this grounds. Just a brief intro. As mentioned already, Madam Chair and honorable colleagues, as mentioned already, the issue before this committee is not yet the guilt or innocence of the respondent. Section 5 of the House Rules on Impeachment Proceedings clearly provides that the requirement...
Honorable De Lima, kindly speak closer to the microphone.
Thank you, thank you. Section 5 of the House Rules on Impeachment Proceedings clearly provides that the requirement of sufficiency in substance is met if there is a recital of facts constituting the offense charged and determinative of the jurisdiction of the committee. There is no issue as to the jurisdiction of the committee, and therefore the focus here, is there sufficient recital of facts constituting the offenses or the offenses charged? So at this stage, our inquiry is narrower but more precise. We are not weighing evidence. Di pa po tinatanong dito kung totoo ang mga alegasyon. And therefore, the question we must resolve is this: whether the allegations, if hypothetical admitted as true, would constitute impeachable offenses under Article 11 of the Constitution. Sufficiency in substance requires that the complaint alleges ultimate facts, not mere conclusions, which fall within the constitutional grounds. I humbly submit that the 98-page Sabalia et al. Complaint contains not just ultimate facts, but actually detailed narration of recital of facts. Let us be candid. We are not new to the facts alleged in this complaint. Hindi po ito mga alegasyong imbento o haka-haka lamang. They have been the subject of legislative inquiries, media scrutiny, and official documentation. The Filipino people have heard them. The institutions, even this very House, have confronted them. And when repeated, documented, and publicly acknowledged acts point toward willful constitutional violations, This chamber cannot pretend unfamiliarity. Our constitutional duty is not to rediscover these facts, but to determine whether these established facts constitute offenses that amount to impeachable grounds. So doon na po tayo sa complaint, sa Saballa et al. Complaint. Alam niyo po, yung presentasyon sa complaint na ito nagsimula sa statement of facts. And these are the facts in relation to the specific grounds. And then nagkaroon po ng discussion na tinatahi, linilink yung bakit yung mga facts na yon ay constitutive of impeachable offenses. So, for the guidance of the committee, the complaint sufficiently substantiates 5 general constitutional grounds: culpable violation of the Constitution, bribery, graft and corruption, other high crimes, betrayal of public trust. Pagkatapos naman po, the complaint contains a statement of facts, narration. These factual allegations as laid out are not isolated from the constitutional grounds for impeachment. Rather, several of them are intertwined with, and in some instances, subsumed under the 6 grounds for impeachment alleged in the complaint. So ang aking pong presentation, papakita ko na po kung ano yung mga examples, kung ano yung mga importante mga factual allegations, and then I will link it to the discussion of why they are constitutive of the offense charge as enumerated in the Constitution. So first ground. Ito po yung facts in relation to VP Sara's anomalous disbursements of confidential funds as Vice President and head of the Office of the Vice President. Covered po ito ng paragraphs 20 to 71, pages 4 to 25 of the complaint. Makikita niyo po sa screen yung mga specific examples or specific allegations of facts na nandito po sa complaint. Sa aking pong presentasyon ngayon, I tried to paraphrase these averments para mas naiintindihan. Mga tinagalog ko nga po yung iba para naintindihan. So it's just really an overview of what you see in the screen as constituting the allegations of facts. So sinasabi po, barely months into office, on August 22, 2022, VP Sara requested 250 million in confidential funds from the DBM for the OVP's good governance program, supposedly. That's paragraphs 22 to 23. Only 125 million was approved for release in the last quarter of 2022. That's paragraph 24. Itong 125 million na ito ay in-encash, inilagay sa 4 na traveling bags at dinala sa OVP. That's paragraph 27. Sa utos umano ni VP Sara, iniabot ito kay Colonel Raymond Dante Lachica at ibinigay sa ibang tao. That's under paragraphs 27 and 31. So kasama po yan sa ninalaman ng affidavit ni Ramil Madriaga, which is Annex A. Para mapagtakpan kung saan napunta ang 125 million ayon sa ulat ng OVP, sa loob ng 11 araw, ang perang ito ay na-disburse sa mga safe houses, rewards, supplies, aid, and travel. That's paragraph 38. Nilagdaan ni VP Sara ang liquidation report, paragraph 39, Annex B, at pinatutuhanan legal ang paggamit ng pondo, paragraph 40, Annex C. Naglabas ang COA ng Audit Observation Memoranda, AOMs, dahil sa kakulangan ng documentary evidence of payments or yung DEPs sa mga disbursements, paragraphs 42 to 44. Nanatili ang deficiencies, kabilang ang questionableng reward payments at paggamit ng pondo para sa ilang items tulad ng tables, chairs, at desktop computers na walang malinaw na kaugnayan sa confidential operations. That's paragraphs 46 to 7. Ang nakakapagduda, ang 158 acknowledgement receipts ay may petsang December 2023, isang taon matapos ang sinasabing disbursement, habang ang iba pa ay walang petsa. That's paragraphs 48 to 49. Dahil dito, naglabas ang COA ng Notice of Suspension at Notice of Disallowance na sumasaklaw sa 73,287,000, paragraphs 51, 53, Annex E. Bukod dito, noong 2023, 3 beses pang nag-withdraw ang OVP ng TIG 125 million na may kabuuang halaga na 375 million. That's paragraphs 55 to 57. Noong 2024, muling napansin ng COA ang kakulangan sa dokumentasyon, paragraph 58. Sa House investigation po, before the House Committee on Good Government and Accountability, lumitaw ang mga resibong pirmado ng mga pangalang nakakaduda. Milky Sequia, Kokoy Villamin, Mary Grace Piatos, at marami pa. na may inconsistencies as hindi matukoy na identity, may ilang pangalan na walang PSA records, may mga resibo na hindi mabasa, walang PETSA, o nagpapakita ng mahigit 100 disbursements sa isang araw, kabilang ang mga resibong nakapetsa sa panahong wala pa ang pondo. That's paragraphs 61 to 69. What began as a 125 million confidential fund release evolved into repeated cash withdrawals, unsupported liquidations, audit findings, and disallowances. Hindi po ito isolated incident. The allegations describe a continuing pattern of disbursement without verifiable documentation, raising questions on accountability in the use of confidential public funds. These are pleaded facts of documentary irregularities and simulated liquidation. Madam Chair, these allegations, specific amounts, specific control, specific certifications, specific COA actions, spurious receipts, fictitious identities, continuing disallowances, and obstruction are ultimate facts. Kung ipagpapalagay na totoo, yung mga alegasyon na pong yan, they constitute culpable violation of plunder through malversation, technical malversation, graft and corruption, other high crimes, and betrayal of public trust. With the permission of this honorable committee, itatay up ko na po sa specific grounds yung mga ultimate facts o yung mga essential factual averments. Culpable violation of the Constitution. So, a culpable violation is not a mere technical breach. Ito ay sinasadya at mulat na pagsasawalang bahala sa tungkuling konstitusyonal. Inaasahan sa mga opisyal na maging tapat sa tungkulin at sumunod sa batas. The complaint pleads ultimate facts, as I said, of custody, control, and affirmative acts. Paragraphs 149, 151, and 153 further allege that VP Sara was the accountable officer for over 500 million pesos and that no disbursement could occur without her approval. Paragraphs 154 to 155 allege she directed the preparation and encashment and delivery of 125 million. These are not passive omissions. These are affirmative exercises of authority. The complaint further alleges repeated COA audit findings, a notice of suspension and disallowance, backdated acknowledgement receipts, and non-existent signatories, and alleged interference with congressional inquiry. Taken together, control, approval, audit red flags, simulated documentation, and alleged obstruction, these pleaded facts, if admitted as true, constitute a willful breach of constitutional fiduciary duty. Graft and corruption. Kung ipagpapalagay na totoo ang mga alegasyon, pumapasok ito sa Section 3E ng RA 3019. Ang pag-encash at pag-disburse ng 125 million sa opisyal na kapasidad, kasabay ng backdated receipts, fictitious names, at paulit-ulit na COA findings ay nagpapakita ng evident bad faith. At dahil may hindi bababa sa 73 million na may notice of disallowance, malinaw na may undue injury to the government. Ang ganitong pattern ng unsupported disbursement ay sapat upang bumuo ng graft and corruption. Other high crimes. Alam niyo po, ang other high crimes, just like betrayal of public trust. More encompassing, because these are not confined, high crimes are not confined to technical penal definitions. They encompass serious misconduct that fundamentally undermines constitutional governance, including any act, omission, or course of conduct that renders a public official unworthy to remain in office. Kabilang dito ang mga gawain o asal ng mga opisyal na maaaring maging pamantayan para tanggalin sa katungkulan. Ang maling paggamit ng confidential funds, simulated liquidation, at paghadlang sa mga mekanismo ng oversight ay tuwirang nagpapapurol sa mekanismo ng pananagutan ng mga institusyon. If admitted as true, such conduct erodes confidence in high office and disrupts the faithful execution of the laws, which makes the VP unworthy to remain in office, that rises to the level of other high crimes. Betrayal of public trust does not require penal conviction. It asks whether the alleged conduct renders the official unworthy of the trust reposed in the office. Confidential funds operate largely on institutional trust. Kung ang 500 million ay inilabas ng cash, may questionableng dokumentasyon, paulit-ulit na na-flag ng COA at sinundan pa ng umano'y pakikialam sa oversight, kung ipagpapalagay na totoo ang mga ito ay malinaw na pagtataksil sa tiwala ng bayan. That is not an administrative lapse. That is gross faithlessness in the stewardship of public funds. Pwede na po ba ako mag-proceed sa second ground, Madam Chair?
That supports only the first
The
article
first-
of impeachment, your
The
first ground.
Yes,
Yes,
Madam
but if
Chair.
you can please shorten your manifestation with respect to the 5 succeeding grounds, because I understand you have 6 grounds in total for the third impeachment complaint.
Yes,
Because
Madam Chair.
anyway, during the deliberation, you will be allowed to respond to the comments and observation of the justice members.
Madam Chair,
The Honorable Rodriguez.
may I request that we go ground by ground? The presentation of the Honorable former Senator, former Secretary of Justice, Congresswoman Laila, is that there's a first ground properly enumerated. So if possible, we can now comment on the presentation and also the ground number 1 of the complaint of the Father Sabalia. I therefore request that we do that ground by ground. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The request of the Honorable Rodriguez is to open the deliberation immediately after her manifestation for the first ground of the impeachment complaint.
And for
Right?
Madam Chair, for each ground for that matter. I
For
think.
each ground, yes. And you just concluded with the first ground.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. So perhaps for continuity of the flow of our discussion, we will be abiding to the request of the Honorable Rodriguez that after the manifestation for the first ground, we will be opening the floor for deliberation on the first ground of impeachment of the third impeachment complaint. But before we proceed to that, let me read the first ground to summarize the discussions of the endorser. The first ground for the third impeachment complaint, Vice President Duterte committed culpable violation of the Constitution and betrayed the public trust by committing plunder and/or malversation, graft and corruption, and other high crimes in amassing and converting the amount of not less than 500 million pesos from the confidential funds allocated to the office of the Vice President for the years 2022 and 2023. With that, we are opening the floor for comments and manifestations of the justice members.
Madam Chair?
The Honorable Franz Legaspi is recognized.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just a very quick, short manifestation, but if we, since we're now going to go over this ground by ground, I'd just like to perhaps make the general manifestation that the Honorable Laila de Lima's recital of facts, she did conduct this recital of facts alleging the first ground of impeachment. So before we begin our discussions to the for this particular ground, I'd just like to say that on a procedural aspect, we have, she has complied with the recital of facts as clearly seen in the presentation earlier. And want to commend her for the succinct, very organized way of presenting these. And I hope that this may serve as a guide for the rest of the committee members into the discussions today. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. Any other member who wish to make a manifestation with respect to the sufficiency in substance of the first ground as presented by the endorser, the Honorable De Lima?
Madam Chair.
Honorable Lord Ansuan.
Madam Chair, impeachment must remain a shield of the Constitution, not a sword of politics. The moment we lower its threshold for any reason, we weaken the very democracy we claim to defend. That is precisely why we must carefully examine the factual allegations and ensure that the constitutional standard is strictly met. In that spirit, and solely for the purpose of determining sufficiency in substance under our rules, may I respectfully request the Honorable Endorser to clarify on record what the specific pieces of evidence were referred and appended to the complaint, which would support these allegations.
Honorable De Lima.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although I wish to state first at the outset that in dealing with the issue on sufficiency in substance, we do not really inquire first into the evidence. But of course, in terms of really substantiating the essential grounds, the essential facts as pleaded, we can always check whether there are supporting evidence or annexes as submitted, as attached to the complaint, and later to be supplemented by other evidence in the proper time. And the proper time is during the evidentiary hearings. Kasi pagkatapos ko kasi ng pag-file ng answer, pag-file ng reply, pag-file ng rejoinder kung meron, pwede pa hong magdagdag ng mga ebidensya, including affidavits doon. So just to satisfy the gentleman that, yes, we have supporting documents, supporting evidence. The attachments consist of exhibit Annex A to Annex CC or double C. And most of this are actually already, these are photocopies of the public records, electronic copies of which have been uploaded to the official website. I'm referring to Annex A. But to the others, the originals of this documentary evidence are the House's own records of files or files. So what we have are photocopies of certified true copies of those documents. These are the liquidation reports, the accomplishment reports of the OVP, the COA notices of disallowances, the OVP certification, the OVP accomplishment reports, letter to Chair Cordoba, mga documents evidencing payments, the photocopies of the documents evidencing payments. At doon nga yung mga nakikita rin yung mga fictitious names. So there are sample depths or documents evidencing payments, and then the audit observation of COA, other certifications of DepEd. No, we're not into DepEd yet. So we're under the first ground, the anomalous disbursement of the confidential funds allocated to the Office of the Vice President as the VP, as head of office. So meron po, dito po, nakalakip, naka-attached, most or many of those documentary evidence, pero ngayon, photocopies lang muna ang pinipresent dito o inattach dito sa ating complaint, sa third complaint. Kasi hindi naman po kailangan at this stage na magpresenta na ng photocopies. And if I must tell the Honorable Committee, meron na nga pong bagong rule sa ating rules of court na maski photocopies ay pwede, can be admitted, even it's not the original, unless a genuine question is raised in the authenticity of the original, or under the circumstances it is unjust or inequitable to admit the duplicate in lieu of the original. Clear po yan sa sections 3 and 4 of Rule 130 as amended. The photocopies are attached, and these are photocopies that are admissible to the same extent as the originals. These are duplicates to the originals under the House's custody. So that is our position, na hindi kailangan unless authenticity is questioned at the proper time. And again, that would be at the evidentiary stage. But even that, handa po ang complainants to present yung certified true copies, which actually form part already of the records of this House.
In summary, Honorable De Lima, your attachments in support of the first ground include COA documents and the transcript of hearing of the House of Representatives.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Honorable Suwan?
Just to clarify, Madam Chair, may I ask the Honorable Endorser, in what manner these annexes, these affidavits, notices of disallowance, establish a clear nexus between the respondent and the alleged acts in such a manner as to possibly justify the advancement of this complaint beyond this committee?
Yes, I
Honorable
have
De Lima.
actually explained, Madam Chair, I have actually explained that earlier, that as the head of office, as the Vice President, the Office of the Vice President, she approves the disbursements, she approves the liquidation, she approves the accomplishment reports. So there is control on her part of the disbursements, and there is testimony to the effect that the instruction to give to various persons, not contemplated within the object of confidential funds ay through the orders of the Vice President. So may pattern po of disbursement without verifiable documentation, documentary irregularities, and simulated liquidation. So under the principle of command responsibility, it is clear that she is the head of office. She approves those disbursements, and also in submitting the excuses under the accomplishment reports, which were found to be not valid by the COA on the audit findings of COA.
Just for the record, Honorable Dilima, when you made mention about approve, she approves the request, she approves the disbursement, does this mean as well that she is the signatory in all the necessary forms?
There are some that she is the signatory, but many also, she's not the signatory, but that is supported. The fact that it is within, or it was within her imprimatur, that those disbursements are made, those liquidation vouchers were approved, were actually testified on by the proper officials of the Office of the Vice President in the course of the previous House hearings.
May we confirm as well that in several documents that you attach or the complainants attach to the impeachment complaint, will this bear at least the signature of the Vice President?
Some of them.
All
But
right.
some of the aspects are taken care of by the testimonies of the responsible officials also of the Office of the Vice President, because the Vice President herself is the ultimate responsible officer in the disbursement of and the use of these confidential funds.
Thank you. Any other more question? Any other member who wish to manifest on the first ground of impeachment of the third impeachment complaint? The Honorable Suntay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, sa ating mga kasamahan dito sa komite, bago tayo pumasok sa substance ng complaint number 3, mahalagang balikan muna natin ang tungkulin natin sa ilalim ng rules of impeachment. Ang mandato ng committee ito ay simple, ngunit mabigat. Tiyakin na ang bawat impeachment complaint na dinala sa kapulungan ay pumasa sa pamantayan ng batas. Kaya ang panawagan ko sa bawat miyembro ay pairali natin ang parehong antas ng pagsusuri na inaasahan sa anumang legal proceedings. Maingat, patas at walang kinikilingan. Ang tanong sa harap natin ngayon ay hindi kung political controversy, kundi kung ang complaint ba ay naglalaman ng ultimate facts. Na kung ipagpapalagay na totoo, ay bumubuo ng impeachable offense sa ilalim ng Rule 3, Section 5. Mahalaga rin tandaan natin na meron na tayong established standards ang committee ito. Dahil ng ilang linggo lang na nakaraan, dumaan rin sa committee na ito yung impeachment complaint laban sa Pangulong Marcos. Mula sa mga naunang disposisyon ng impeachment complaints, malinaw na sinabi ng committee na ito na hindi sapat ang mga aligasyon na nakaantabay lamang sa administrative process, audit observation, o konklusyon na walang malinaw na factual particulars tulad ng unlawful acts, personal participation, o personal gain. Sa parehong pamantayan na iyon, dapat natin suriin ang complaint 3 and 4. Kung ang mga aligasyon ba ay tunay na naglalatag ng impeachable offense o kung ang mga ito ay naglalarawan lamang ng mga pangyayaring hindi pa naman napapatunayan na illegal na gawain. Ang diskusyon na ito na nais kong buksan ay nakatuon dito sa pamantayan na ito. Now, dadako na ako sa aligasyon. On complaint 3, naisaad na on August 22,
If I may interrupt, Honorable Suntay, we are deliberating on a per ground basis.
Yes.
We are only on the first ground.
I'm on the first ground, Madam
Thank you.
Chair. It was just an opening statement. On August 22, 2022, as alleged, VP Sara requested an additional amount of 250 million for confidential funds, as was stated by the Honorable Congresswoman Laila De Lima. The allegation establishes only that the respondent requested confidential funds. Requesting funds is part of the budget execution process and is not illegal per se. The complaint does not allege that the request violated any law or constitutional prohibition. Thus, no impeachable offense was pleaded. On paragraph 24, it stated only 125 million was approved for release for the office. But the signing alone constitute an impeachable offense? Signing of a disbursement voucher is a ministerial or administrative act necessary for fund release. The complaint does not allege that the voucher was falsified or illegal. Therefore, the paragraph does not plead any unlawful overt act. On paragraph 27, the cash was placed into 4 traveling bags. VP Sara was, as alleged, even assuming that the instructions was given, the allegation describes operational handling of confidential funds. Dahil ang disbursement ng confidential funds, hindi naman cheque ang ini-issue sa mga confidential agent. Naturally, you would need cash to disburse for to be distributed. At 4 p.m., as alleged on paragraph 28, December 20, Acosta gave, ito yung tungkol sa handling raw ng funds, Colonel Lachica gave the full amount of 125 million. The paragraph describes a transfer between subordinates. No allegations is made that the respondent received the funds or personally benefited, which is very important, yung personal benefit. Handling of funds, the distribution, should benefit someone. We are trying to impeach the Vice President. Does this distribution of money, of the confidential funds, ultimately benefited the Vice President? I read through all the entirety of the complaint, and there is no specific allegation that the money was indeed, that the money indeed went to the Vice President. On paragraph 37, using her subordinates in the VPSG, this is a conclusory allegation unsupported by factual details. The complaint does not specify the amount allegedly taken, the benefit obtained, the assets acquired. Under Rule 3, Section 5, conclusions do not constitute ultimate facts. The complaint further alleges that the Vice President disbursed the amount in 11 days. You know, we have to take note. The request from the Office of the Vice President was made on August 20, 2022. The funds were approved by the President and downloaded to the Office of the Vice President on December 20. 11 days before the end of the calendar year. So, but the question is, does rapid disbursement alone constitute an impeachable offense? Does it establish illegality? Confidential funds may be disbursed quickly due to operational requirements. The complaint fails to show the unlawful diversion. Saan ba ginamit yung confidential funds? COA issued, it is true that COA issued its first audit observation memorandum. But an audit observation memorandum is a preliminary audit finding, requesting clarification. It does not establish liability nor show that respondents personally falsified documents. It was also alleged that COA issued a notice of disallowance on August 8, 2024 for items totaling 73 million. But a notice of disallowance establishes potential administrative liability subject to appeal. It does not automatically establish criminal conduct or an impeachable offense. Now, ang kailangan natin malaman, is there a final audit observation issued by the COA? O wala? Because I was going through the complaint, there was no mention of a final audit observation. If there was, then it was not contained in the complaint. So, Madam Chairman, with regards to the first allegation, on my part, these are my observations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Since I observe that we are